Hello, dear friends. Patrick Peace here again. Thursday, August 6th, 2026. How you doing today? Hope you're doing well. Long time no see. Wanted to make a short video today for you talking about the topic of name change. Have you ever thought about changing your name? Why do people change their name? If you look at most celebrities, they use a different name from what they were born with. Why do they do that? What is that associated with? Well, yes, it's to make them sound more appealing to the public and to have a better ring to it, so that people can remember the name a little easier, depending on what field they happen to be involved in or what movie they happen to be in. Some do, some don't. But usually it's to make a step into a drastic change. People will change their name when they're taking on a new venture. They're going to star in a movie. They're going to change their name. And this is traditional throughout the history of Hollywood. You'll see people, they get scouted by a talent agent and they'll say, oh, we're going to make you a star. We need to change your name. And so this is a thing that people often do when they're taking on a big venture. It's also a biblical theme, right? When Christ called Peter, when he first met him, basically, he said, your name is going to be, his name was Simon, right? When he met him, his name was Simon, and then he says, your name's going to be Peter, which apparently translated means rock or something. So he kind of gave him a new name, and he also did that for the James and John, two brothers that were following him. He called them the sons of thunder, so he gave them a name as well. And then also another biblical story, we see Saul. His name was Saul, and after he had this divine revelation, he changed his name to Paul. Now, apparently, in the first century, people would have Hebrew names, and they would have also Latin names, one for the Jewish culture and one for the Roman Empire culture, and so that was common as well. And that might have been, behind his. But really, it was because he was making this transformation. He was starting a new chapter in his life, and I'm just surprised why more people don't do that. The reason that I thought of making this video was a gentleman from the Conservative Party of Canada sent me an email the other day, and he said, hello there, this is so-and-so, and you get on these email lists, and he's asking for feedback about the Conservative Party, feedback about these issues. Can you give us some feedback? And the gentleman's name, I guess I shouldn't use his first name, but the gentleman's last name was, let's give him a John Doe name as a first name, Joe. Let's call him Joe. His last name was Outhouse, was his last name. Yes, like outhouse, like a toilet in the middle of the forest. Okay, that's what they call it, outhouse. And he was asking for feedback, so I sent him a reply and I said, "Change your last name, you dink." I probably should have left out the part of you dink because that wasn't very nice. But in any event, probably I was in a grumpy mood that day, which is normal. You see, I'm almost always in a grumpy mood. My life growing up was a history of constant fighting. I probably moved close to a dozen times from the time I was in grade 1 till the time I graduated from high school. And every new school I went to, sure as shit, I'd get into a fight with somebody. Multiple fights, many times. And so elementary school and high school was this constant anxiety feeling of who was I going to have to get into a fight with today. Almost every day I would go to school with dread or anxiety, and I knew I had to fight. Because if I came home and I was crying, my mom would say, well, you're just going to have to learn to take care of yourself. There was no sympathy at home. They had 9 kids to look after. And so you're sink or swim. And so growing up, and then, of course, I discovered martial arts, and then I just ran with that, and that's all I wanted to do. And so that's basically just constant fighting in a different sort of way, a much safer way, of course. But the history of my life is a history of combat, history of fighting constantly, fighting against others, fighting against myself, fighting against my own ideas. And so when I chose a new name, sure enough, I chose the name Peace. Why? Because it's the opposite of what I'm mostly like, right? That's what I'm striving for. That's what I'm hoping for. And I think it suits me. I like the name Peace. I want to be a peaceful person. And as I age, I'm hoping to become peaceful. So if you're going through life and your last name is Outhouse or Wacko or Slimy, why not choose who you want to be? Make a big step forward and say, you know what? I'm not going to be this person anymore. I'm going to be a new person. You know what it costs to get a name change in Ontario, Canada? $250. Why do most people don't change their name? Oh, it'd be too complicated. I have to change all my bills and change it. Well, you know what? You don't have to legally change it. You can adopt a pseudonym. That's what authors do. I did that for many of the books that I published on Amazon as well. I published, over 100 books. And I don't want to blow my own horn, but dozens and dozens of books are published under a different name, simply because I wanted it to suit what that topic was about. Maybe it was a topic on carpentry, so I'd call him John Hammer, or what, you get the idea. You want something to associate your name with the topic that you're dealing with, whether you're trying to be a celebrity, or trying to be a movie person, or trying to write a book, or trying to write, if you were trying to write a book about a topic and your name is some difficult, strange, let's take a Greek sounding name, for example, Papadopoulos or Antonopoulos. A lot of these Greek names are very difficult to pronounce. You may want to choose a pseudonym and say, I'm going to choose this name to go with this particular book. So just an idea for you today. Think about the idea. If you could be any person you wanted to be in the world, it doesn't have to be a celebrity. You might want to be the best mechanic in the world. You might want to say, hey, my name is Joe the Wrench. Why not? Life is short, Maybe you're a race car driver and you want to call yourself after a famous race car driver like Richard Petty or somebody similar to that. I don't know. It could be anything. But all I'm saying is that a lot of people go through life timid. And they just think, well, I just got to keep a low profile, and I don't want to attract any attention to myself. And that's fine. For a lot of people, that's what they want to do. But sometimes you got to grab life by the balls. Sometimes you got to fight to survive. Sometimes you got to put yourself out there and say, this is who I am. Don't mess with me, because I'm standing up for myself. I'm not a pushover. This is what I'm good at. This is what I'm going to focus on, and run with it. And sometimes a name change can help in that area. Not always, but just a thought for you today, because that came to me from this guy sending an email. And I hope, should he ever see this, that he's not too offended, because I thought for a person that's representing a political party, Outhouse as a last name is probably not the best name you can have. You might want to have something a little bit more palatable, a little bit more acceptable, right? And I know there's people out there that have really awkward last names, and it doesn't seem to bother them, and that's okay too. If you're proud of your last name and your last name is John Boner or Joe Dink, and you're happy with it, that's great too. God bless you, okay? But just throwing that idea out there for you, there seems to be something important about it. Why did Christ give Peter a new name? Because he was he reached a point in his life where he met the Savior of the world, and his life became transformed from that moment on. He didn't do it for everybody, but it just gives you an idea that is something that is significant. Maybe it's something that you haven't thought of before. Maybe this just might trigger something in your mind and say, hey, you know what? The sky's the limit. There's no restrictions on who I can be or who I can represent myself as. You don't want to be a false person either. You don't want to go around with a facade or a charade. But if you do want to be somebody and make an impact, and maybe write a book using a pen name. They call it a pen name because it goes with your writing. That's something that you should seriously look at. And if it helps you, great. And if it doesn't, hey, it's just an idea that I'm throwing out there for you. So with that, I'll leave you for today. I hope that's a good topic for you. I hope you're able to spend time with people you love, and we'll talk to you again real soon, okay? Talk to you later. God bless you. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye for now.